Day 2 of uploading a video to my channel every single day for an entire year. Let's go. Today I'm talking about Tennessee Metal Devastation Music Fest. This just happened last weekend, last Saturday. I was fortunate to be there as a vendor this year, of course, shilling my own movie, my own documentary about that festival, Death Reigns, which will be available to stream a month from now in November 21st to be specific. I was there at my booth selling DVDs, t-shirts, posters. So thank you so much to everybody who came out and supported my movie by buying something. And there's leftovers of that stuff, by the way. More details on that later. But primary focus, the festival itself. There's a reason I spent a year of my life dedicated to documenting the story of this festival, and it's because it is just a really special event. Zach and Raven, who I'm fortunate enough to call my friends now, pour a lot into this festival, and you can feel it in the final event. Everything about who they are and what they believe and what they value in music comes out in the lineup of the music, the type of bands that play, and they just have, the festival is proof that they have impeccable taste because every year the lineup somehow gets better. I remember last year, the year that I filmed the festival with a small crew, I thought at that time, this is the best lineup that the festival's ever had. I couldn't imagine it getting much better. But they topped themselves again this year, somehow. I'll put the lineup on screen, or maybe I just turn around and show you the back of the shirt that I'm wearing right now. In any case, you get the point. Even if you haven't heard of a lot of these bands, trust me when I say they absolutely slammed on stage. They did a great job. Shout out to every single band at Metal Devastation Fest, especially my Tennessee boys who I'm friends with. I'm talking Sun Mantra, Summoner Circle, Quiescent Mantis. You know who you are. Huge shout out. Also shout out to the Red Mountain, my brothers in Mississippi. What really makes the festival feel special though is when you're there, it just feels like extended family, which is probably sounds a little weird to say, but it's absolutely true. I remember going to Metal Devastation Fest for the first time back in 2023. And just kind of being in disbelief that there was a festival here in West Tennessee outside of a big city like Memphis or Nashville. I didn't have to drive a super long way to get to. And more than that, everyone there was just friendly. I met a very nice lady there. When I showed up, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't bring any drinks, no coolers, no chairs, no nothing. I ended up buying a shit ton of merch. I didn't know what to do with it. So there was a really nice lady who, I apologize, her name escapes me at this moment. And she was basically my festival mom that year. And she let me keep my merchandise right there with her little camping spot there at the amp. And, the next year I showed up, I saw her again, but I was filming this time with a small crew for Death Reigns. And then this year, she stopped by my booth, to tell me that she was proud of me, and that she remembers me from the first year that I showed up to the festival. That's just one example. It's kind of crazy how many people are so friendly and nice, including the bands. That's one stipulation that helps the festival feel special, is that Zach and Raven always want to bring on bands that are comfortable having a booth in that intimate setting, that are comfortable interacting with their fans, shaking hands with them, hugging them, signing merch, doing whatever. And man, that makes all the difference when you have bands, not just talented bands that are good at what they do, but also bands that are there who are comfortable with their community, who are comfortable sharing a space with their fans, and just being down to earth. That very humble, down to earth community vibe is not something you get at really any other event of this magnitude. But it's something you feel very strongly at Metal Devastation Fest. And I know I used an example of someone I already knew there, but even this year, I spoke to people who I'd never spoken to before, bands that I'd never spoken to before, and they were fantastic. They were just so nice and so welcoming. And, I always encourage everybody that I know to come out to this festival, even if they're not a particular fan of metal music, because I've found sometimes that when people do come, even out of hesitation for the genre of music that's being played, they find the things that I'm saying. That is a very much a home away from home, this festival is. They find friends, they find that they have a good time, regardless of what their previous opinion was of metal music. So when you combine all this stuff of like the fantastic lineup, how good all of the bands are in the lineup, this community vibe, and then the fact that it's happening here in West Tennessee, in a part of West Tennessee that doesn't get a lot of events like this. I mean, it shows because there's always a huge turnout every single year. So people are hungry for this down here in the Bible Belt, down here in what I call the gospel gutter. People want this. They're showing out for it. People are traveling from outside the Bible Belt to come to this. When you put all of this together, and you combine it with my own personal feelings and attachment to the festival, the fact that it's happening, so close to where I live, and it's not something that 5 years ago, if you told me that it was going to happen, I would have believed you, right? The Bible Belt's a very restrictive place. It's a very difficult place to live if you're into alternative communities. If your tastes don't necessarily align with a very narrow view of what people down here think is acceptable. So the fact that this exists at all, where it exists, is to me a miracle. So when you combine my personal attachment, my personal feelings about it as someone who's lived in the Bible Belt his entire life, with just how good the festival is, how professional it is, I mean, the feeling of euphoria I get when I'm there, watching the shows, participating in the crowd, or this year running a booth. This year in particular, I just kept telling Raven how thankful I was that this festival happened. Like I said, if you had told me 5 years ago that I would be as intimately involved with something like this as I am now, I would have thought you were pulling my leg. I guess I'm running out of steam here. I am very tired tonight. I think originally when I wrote this idea down to talk about this, and I do want to talk about it since it just happened. I think originally when I wanted to talk about it, I had other things to say, more things to say, but like I said, I'm tired, and I guess that's all I've got. So I won't keep this any more long-winded than it has to be. I'll go ahead and conclude, and I guess I'll see you tomorrow.